Welcome to the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Nina Adio, a social media marketing expert specializing in the wedding industry. Each week, we'll explore the strategies, stories, and insider tips that help wedding professionals thrive. You'll hear solo episodes filled with actual advice for social media and inspiring conversations with esteemed wedding industry guests. Thank you for tuning in and letting this podcast be a part of your day. Let's get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode here of the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. We have been doing a lot of new things here at the podcast, so it could be that you are watching this on YouTube. It could be that you are reading the transcript on our blog, or it could be that you are listening on Apple, Spotify, the web, as you always have been. Either way, I really want to thank you for being here because it's been a really exciting time doing this show and just being a part of it with you guys. Last week, we had Taylor of Aligned SEO on to talk about some great SEO tips that you can implement today for your brand, for your business. So you're going to want to go and check that one. That was number 167. And then episode 166, we had Steve Fredlin, and it was all about, really a lot about motivation and keeping motivation with your business even in challenging times. There's a lot of uncertainty now. With tariffs, with everything, maybe we know what this year is going to look like, but we don't know what next year is going to look like. And Steve is just very motivational to speak to. I really find myself utilizing that in him as I talk about things from my own career. So I really encourage you to check out those two episodes. Today is going to be a solo episode as I wanted to share just some Instagram specific tips. I was in the airport, which is always a great time for me for focused work, whether it's leisure like reading or it's working. So this time my flight was delayed and I was like, well, let me do some engagement on the social media accounts on Instagram to get some more ideally followers, website clicks, interest for my account. So I kind of wanted to do a breakdown with you guys of when I am doing that, when I'm trying to get new people to a wedding industry account on Instagram. Where do I go? And what do I do? Now, this is all going to be pretty broad and applicable to everybody, but I want to give a disclaimer that each, wedding vendor type, right, category, you're going to have a different stage in the process. When somebody's looking for a venue, it's a different time period. When somebody is looking for a photographer or photo booth company or invitations. I also want to say that when I am engaging on these accounts, for example, I as a photographer would not engage with a couple tagged in another photographer's engagement photos, so things like that. I want to be a bit clear on, and I'm gonna make this Instagram specific. This is my formula for Instagram and what I do. So when I get a new account, so let's say it is in North Carolina, they're in Raleigh, let's say. I'm going to look to see what wedding industry accounts are active in that area. And I'm not talking about businesses yet. I'm talking about things like Wed Society. They have different chapters all across, the nation, or they could be Heart of NC Weddings or different wedding influencers in that local space. And that's going to be one of the first things I look for. It's going to find people who are interested in that localized information that's specific to weddings, right? So anybody who's following, let's say, Wed Society Indianapolis is likely interested in weddings in the Indianapolis area. So it's a great way to meet not only couples, but vendors too. Look, when you're building your account,
getting in touch and working with your fellow vendor is really a great way to start that. And look, vendors of today really do help each other, right? And they want to work with others and support each other, or even just liking and commenting on somebody else's posts, helps get you on their radar. So don't discount interacting with the vendors too, especially if you're somebody who believes, I gotta have a high follower count. I think that you would be better off building that with couples and location specific vendors than, let's say, buying followers. Gotta have a quick sip of the coffee now. Okay, so after that, so what I do then is I'm gonna see who recently followed them, interact with them a bit, maybe like a few posts, comment on their engagement photo, things like that. I'm gonna see who liked their recent posts, because that means they're active and they engage. If one of these accounts does a giveaway, oh, that's my favorite, because then it's all people who are entering for that wedding giveaway. So they're interested, and I'll engage with everybody on those. So those are that's where I start. That's number one. And if I only have 10 minutes, spending it there is going to really produce, because I have now really shrunken the pool to be people who are very specific to what my client does. After that is when I'll start to look at local salons, bridal salons, local wedding venues, places like that, to see who's liking their posts. Maybe they're announcing that they picked that venue to get engaged. Maybe they're trying on dresses. Maybe they're just following. So that is where I go for the next phase. I would say you get the same type of results as with the previous ones for the influencer accounts. You still get couples and vendors. You just don't get as many of them, right? Because more people are going to be following the broad influencer account than the specific locations or venues and so forth. So I'll still do this and utilize this. I'll have to do probably several of them, right? Rather than just doing one influencer account, I may do 3 different venues, depending on how many followers they have, how many likes, and so forth. As far as pages go, after that, I would then look for the local pages. So it could be something like Greenville Daily or Greenville Foodies, whatever that area you're in, right? It could be Indianapolis Bites, people who are talking about events in the local area, locations in the local area. And yes, this may not be, well, it won't be, right? It's not wedding specific, but it's getting people in the area that you do business. And this can be really fruitful, especially if you do corporate too. If you're a venue that does corporate events, if you're a photo booth company, you're doing corporate too, this can be really great. And also, like I said, when you're building followers, building local followers is much better than paying for followers or getting irrelevant followers. So this is a great place to get involved in the community, get your name out there. So even though you're engaging with people who maybe aren't looking to get married right now, they could know somebody who is, you're getting the brand awareness. So I will see who's interacting with these local pages. I'll follow the local pages. I'll comment on what they're posting, because they're getting a lot of people in your area engaged and involved. And these are the people I want my clients to be involved with, and for people to know them and to know that they're supportive and so forth. So that is something that I like to do as well. Before I get to my next Instagram tips for finding followers and leads, I do want to remind you that we have a new resources tab that I've added to my website and that I will put in the show notes. It's idoweddingmarketing.com/resources2. I probably could get rid of the 2 as I'm reading it right out loud, but I'll have it in the show notes for you guys. And I have all the different resources resources and codes that people give to the podcast for our audience. So this way, as we collect those, I'll keep them all in one place for you guys. And I am most excited to be announcing that our most recent offer comes from Aisle Planner Pro. So Aisle Planner Pro, if you're not familiar with it, I am so excited about this because it's such a great brand and name. They are an all-in-one CRM and project management platform designed specifically for wedding and event professionals. So from managing leads to sending contracts to creating timelines, floor plans, and your client collaboration. So this becomes your hub and your communication method, as well as having all the files you share with your clients. This is all done through Aisle Planner, so you don't have to worry about multiple emails and Google Drives and so forth. So Aisle Planner offered I Do Wedding Marketing listeners 15% off of 6 months with a new subscription. So right now, this is the best cumulative offer they are giving, and that is with code IDWMX AP. So that stands for I Do Wedding Marketing and Aisle Planner. So that's IDWMXAP. And I have the resources site linked in the show notes that you can get to. But wow, guys, this podcast, right? We've been the little podcast that could, and now I'm so excited to be able to offer you guys these extra values just for being a listener. So thank you so much for being here. Now for my next tip, after, we're looking at the pages, what's really fruitful is looking at the location tags, also known as the geotags. So when you create a post and then you put the location that you're in, that is something that is searchable. And there are some locations that always connect me to couples. It's really remarkable. So one of the biggest ones, and this is for whatever area, if they have a local winery or vineyard, oh my goodness, those always produce. I'm always finding engagements, I'm finding bachelorettes, I'm finding girls' nights out, I'm finding couple dates. People love to get their vineyard and winery photos and check in. So that helps me so much with finding a targeted audience. So whenever I find a good, popular winery or vineyard in my client's area, I am following them and I'm making note of it, and I'm seeing who checks in, especially as we're getting into the summer season. You're going to see a lot more check-ins there. So those are great places to check the locations to. The next thing you want to look into are romantic restaurants in your area. Where are people going for their date nights? Where are people going for their anniversary dinners? And somebody has a special occasion, where are they going? Because very often people will then check in to show that they were there, and they'll even put what they're celebrating. And very often it is an engagement. So that is really great as well. And as especially seasonally, different locations will have different flower fields or pumpkin patches or outdoorsy places like that, where you go and you take your photos, or maybe it's different gardens, things like that. Those experience related places get a lot of check-ins, and you're able to find a lot of people who are, I find, engaged or within that kind of demographic, and sharing posts, and are great people who are going to want to connect with your brand, right? Because these are people who like experiences. And even if you're not just doing weddings, right? I keep giving the example of a photo booth company. That's something that's an experience for a party planner. You do experiences, right? So these are people who want to be connected and like sharing and like doing things and being a part of things. So I find I really connect with a very relevant audience when I am in there. And then while doing this, right, it becomes lather, rinse, repeat, So what you can do, or I used to do in the past, was make charts of, I'd separate it by accounts and locations, and then I would put the date after I did it. But now it's so autopilot in my mind that I really don't need to do that. But in the beginning you could, and then it's working just by what you're seeing. So after I do a 10-minute session, all right, I'll close the account, I'll go back later, and you'll see a couple of followers coming in, and then you're like, dang, dang, that worked. So what you could do to keep the momentum from those followers is just send them a welcome message, say, hey, thanks for following. If you're ever going to be in photo booth needs, let us know. Or, we offer our Instagram followers 10% off their first booking. Here's the code. Or whatever you want to do to welcome them into your space, you could certainly do that. And that's the formula, guys. I'm giving it to you all here. I'm giving you it all. It takes dedication, it takes practice, it takes time, and that's why I'm so comfortable sharing it, right? I don't need to gatekeep it, because it takes time, and not everybody has it, or it takes dedication, and not all other social media managers have that. So I'm totally comfortable sharing this information, because even though it is my tried and true formula, you have to have those other elements to get it to work. And I know that a lot of wedding industry professionals, you're short on time for social media, because that's not the top of the priority list. What I will say, even if you do this 10 minutes a week, that's really focus 10 minutes that your account wouldn't have had otherwise. So I say this is great waiting room activities. It's great like I did it at the airport. It's great on commercial breaks. It's great when maybe you're just waiting for the food to come out of the oven and you got like 3 more minutes and you finish the dishes and all the other multitasking we do, right? And you finally have those final few minutes where you're like, I don't want to get into something serious, but I could do something. This is the activity for that. So if you give this a try, look, I would love to know how it works for you. Maybe we could even do an episode together, and I could have you come on and talk about the experience. I would love to hear that. Also, if you have enjoyed this episode or any of our past episodes, if you would consider leaving us a review on Apple or Spotify, that is what helps the podcast to reach new people and new wedding pros. And guys, I am really trying to grow this thing. Also, you can now follow us on YouTube at I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast, where we will be putting the videos of this episode, so you get to see my nice mugs each time. Maybe I'll try and do a different one each time. I don't know. It's all mood based. It's all mood based, guys. But thank you for being here, and we will be back next week for another Wedding Wednesday.